Last year, Hasbro announced a really cool mashup between G.I. Joe and the Transformers. They were going to create a HISS tank that would transform into Megatron, the leader of the Decepticons. Now, there was precedence for this. In the comic, Megatron had teamed up with Cobra, so as soon as the pre-orders went up, I wanted this toy. I ordered it on Pulse, but then it came up on Amazon, so I ordered it there, and it came really quickly. But they didn't put it in a box. They just slapped the shipping labels like right on the actual package. So that was a pretty big bummer. So I went about trying to take the stickers off. The one peeled off pretty well. The other two didn't want to come off. So I grabbed some Goo Gone that helped get rid of the gook. And the box is made of some pretty sturdy stuff. So I think it ended up not too bad. And it wasn't dented or broken in any other way. So let's get into the box. So the box itself is beautiful. I was a little bummed it was damaged just because usually I open my stuff, but this box looked like it was worth saving. Inside's this cardboard box, and there's Megatron. He's pretty much complete. And the cool thing is he doesn't need stickers. He's, all the stickers and stuff are just like painted right on him. There's the manual. I found these instructions not super helpful, so I ended up just watching a video to learn how to do his transformation. And here is the Baroness, a carded figure. The card looked good. It was pretty, sturdy. She looks like a good reproduction of the original O-ring figure. She came with a nice, laser rifle and a little backpack. And there is some, paint in her eyeglasses. The skin there is actually painted on. So it looks a little off, but it's pretty close. I think they did a pretty good job. And I like these new O-ring figures because the hands, you don't have to worry about the thumbs breaking off. And also the foot pegs, work really well. So, the feet are a little more flexible and they're just more fun to play with because you're not worried about breaking them. And here is Megatron. There are a few pieces you have to put together, like the blasters on the back of his, little turret. And then he's got the big Megatron blaster and then a little back piece that's like a shield. And here he is all put together. Not really much to put together. And we got Baroness riding in the back. There's talk of the stability and he is back heavy, but it's got those tread kind of heel things. And they do a really good job of keeping him, from leaning back or falling back. So I think that was pretty cool. They added that to the design. Overall, I'm just loving this figure. It looks really awesome. I don't have any Transformers at all. I think my son has some little ones, but not detailed like this. And it just looks like Megatron. It just reminds me of the cartoon because I did watch that when I was younger. And I have a lot of other robots, and so this kind of reminds me of those. But, this is really seems cartoon accurate and really pretty cool. I mean, he's got pieces of hiss on him and stuff, but I don't know. For me, this is pretty awesome, and especially that they let Baroness they kept that cockpit there, so she was kind of sitting in the turret and could kind of be visible, riding on his back, kind of whispering in his ear, telling him what to do, or trying to influence him. And he's got his blaster and those giant pauldrons, which are, parts of the HISS. So I grabbed some Macross Valkyries. These are vintage, 155, the first Valkyries that were made. And so they reminded me of kind of the same articulation as Megatron. They're a little bit stiff, but they hold a good pose and they've got a main weapon. The right Valkyrie's an armored Valkyrie. So it kind of felt like a similar kind of mass. And it was just neat seeing them up next to each other. I mean, I guess this Megatron's supposed to be 1/18 scale and they're 155, but they seemed about the same level of detail and the same size. Those are older, so they've got a lot of metal in them. The plastic's better. They don't have those hollow voids like this HISS Megatron mashup. And I think he holds up really well against them, and it's because they all kind of have that 80s aesthetic. I mean, the Valkyries do because they came out in the 80s, but I think they really did a great job of capturing the cartoon feel. Okay, so let's jump in and transform this guy. Let's turn Megatron into a HISS. So the first thing you want to do is remove the shield and his blaster, and then his pauldrons. You kind of bend them out and bend down this one piece. The pauldrons become the front of the HISS tank, and the two pauldrons come together and form the cockpit where the driver sits. So right there, you're folding down that piece, and that's kind of becoming the floor where the driver's going to sit. I kind of like these pauldrons big like that, sticking out. Kind of feels like a certain kind of anime robot or something like that. And then you kind of pull down these, I guess, shoulder pieces. It's kind of like all the shoulder pieces rotate around here. So his arm rotates there, and also the pauldrons. And then you just pull up his chest, which attaches to his head, and that opens up almost everything. And then what you want to do is tuck his thighs into his calves. So those being hollow, it allows for that. And then there's like a little tab in the middle that each of the calves kind of tuck into. And then another set of tabs where those little kind of end pieces of the treads, tuck into his chest. So just hook those tabs up, and then that kind of gives the spacing, and then you bring the treads together and you've got pretty much the full Hiss tread, which, it starts to look like a Hiss. Then what you're going to do is bring those kind of rotated shoulder pieces around, and then rotate the arms down, and those go into sort of behind the treads, and they tuck down into the calves, into the legs, and that's pretty tight. And then you shove those pieces together, the two rotating pieces, and they kind of tab together. And then that's when you fold down the cockpit area, which is the pauldrons. And then you fold up the feet, and that kind of holds it all together. And then I just applied some pressure to kind of squeeze this part together, and it locks in pretty good. And then you want to turn up the cockpit cover, and then everything starts to kind of look like a Hiss tank. The last thing is just this, the back part. You want to make sure those tabs go into the treads, and that really holds it there. And then there's good old Megatron kind of sitting in the back there with his head sticking out, which looks kind of funny. But then you just pop this piece on, and that covers it up, and the Hiss is pretty much done. You're supposed to put that big cannon on there. I think it looks pretty goofy. I mean, I feel like they could have found a better place to put it, maybe on the side or something like that, or maybe underneath the front, under the cockpit. I don't know. But, you could put it on there. I think I took it off after a while. But it's great. The seat fit another O-ring figure, like Cobra Commander. I didn't try it with a modern figure. And then the foot pegs on the back, just like the original Hiss. You can put some of your troopers on the back, and they can ride back there. You can kind of transport some troops up to the front line. And so it just looks like a good Hiss. It's got the guys riding on the back, Baroness in the turret, Cobra Commander driving it. The guns still work, the turret rotates. I mean, it's as functional as a real Hiss. It's got the great ground clearance of the original Hiss. And, it just looks really good. It looks like the original toy. So as a Hiss tank, I don't think this could be any better. I mean, it looks just like that tank it's sitting next to. I mean, it's the black original classic Hiss tank. And all the, the stickers, the silk screened paint apps or whatever they are, just look really good. It just looks like the classic Hiss. And, I'm shocked looking at that there's that Megatron robot inside there. And that you can just transform it fairly easily. So I'd say it's a huge, huge, huge win. And then looking at the Megatron figure, it's really, like I was saying, it looks really good. It looks like, what I think of as Megatron from the cartoon. And two, I like how durable it feels. It definitely feels like a fun toy. Like you're going to be able to play with this. I mean, we've been transforming it back and forth. Probably done it a dozen times already. And it still feels nice and tight. It's not getting loose. I don't feel like every time I transform it, I'm going to rub off paint or, scratch it, because, I don't think anything is really painted on this except for the sort of decal kind of things, where it's black plastic, where it's the lighter color, it's just that lighter gray plastic. And it just feels really strong and really durable. And the weight of it's good. It's not super heavy. Because it's hollow, I know people aren't into that, but it feels kind of more playable and lighter because of that. And, it just seems like a fun toy. It too doesn't feel precious like those Valkyries I was looking at. They're metal and die cast and a little more brittle plastic. This feels like, it's a softer plastic. So if this does fall over, or, my kid drops it or knocks it over, I think it's going to be fine. And especially those little joints. They've got, metal pins in them, so I think those will last and be strong. And it feels kind of ratcheted, so like the knee joint and stuff is like really tight, so there's no problems with him standing up. Overall, I'd give this like a 10 out of 10. I'd probably say it's one of my favorite toys I've bought in a while because it's, well, a few reasons. Like, it's a fantastic mashup. In that sense, it's like a dream toy because it brings together G.I. Joe and Transformers, and those are two cartoons that I just really loved as a kid. I just watched those so much during the 80s. It also just looks really great as both the tank and the robot. It looks great as Megatron. I think it looks like him. His head looks awesome. The face looks mean. And his scale to the G.I. Joes is like really imposing. And that's just like a fantastic thing. And then as a tank, as the HISS tank, it looks just like a HISS tank. It doesn't look like, I don't know, like some kind of weird futuristic, Cybertron version of a HISS tank. It just looks like a HISS tank, which is kind of neat. And, just the idea of like blending in like a Transformer. What's also great is they're both playable. So as the tank, it's as playable as any other HISS tank. And then as a robot, like, it's very durable. And Megatron just looks like you could, wade into a bunch of Joes and have him, flipping over Mobats and like taking out, Joes and kicking them around and stepping on them. It just seems like a ton of fun. The transformation is easy, so that's just great. I mean, my son can't do it by himself, but, we've been going back and forth doing it, and I think he'll get the hang of it after a while. It's just nice having transformed things like some of the modern day Valkyries that are just so like finicky, and you've just got to get things right, and you're always worried like, I'm gonna snap this, I'm gonna break this. I really wasn't worried about that once I transformed this a couple times. It's super durable. The plastic's strong. Like I was saying, if you drop this or something, or it rolls over, it's like no big deal. This just feels like it's going to last forever, and it's just going to be really fun. And that's it. It just comes down to fun. This toy is a toy I want to play with. It doesn't feel like a lot of toys that are just like, you'll get them, take them out of the package, and it's really a statue you're just going to put up on a shelf. Like, this toy, like, I want to play with it. I want to sit on the floor with my son and play with it. I want to just sit on the floor and play with it. I want to do some things with it, set it up with some Joes, set it up with some Cobra, have a bunch of like Cobra troopers out in front of it. It just really makes you want to do stuff with it. And it's not just a showpiece. And I think just transforming it and playing with it and trying out different modes and things with it is just a really great thing. And my favorite thing about this, I just think they nailed it. I'm so glad this toy was made. So glad I got it. And I would just highly recommend it to anybody. So that's my take on this new Megatron HISS tank G.I. Joe Transformer mashup. As you can tell, I really, really like it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe it helped you inform, your decision if you want to get one or not. And let me know in the comments if you got one, if yours came in an actual shipping box, or if you also had shipping labels on your nice toy box, or, how it got to you. Thanks again for stopping by and watching the video. Hopefully we'll see you in the next one. And yo, Joe.
Is he defeated?
Almost.
Transform so no one knows I'm Megatron.